And there we are, we're recording. So welcome to Painting Through the Pandemic. I'm Shauna Sue from Crooked Door Studio. If you're not familiar, I own a lovely little studio in Uptown Marysville. We've been virtually painting. We've been painting through the pandemic virtually for over a year now. I counted yesterday and it's been 385 days since we've really done anything in the studio. We've had a couple really small parties to test the waters here and there, like maybe 2, 3 during that whole time. And it was just enough to make me nervous and I pulled back. So as of yesterday, I had a private party at the studio, went really well. We'll see. I'm going to dip my toe in again next weekend and have another private party. If all is right with the world, we'll start doing more private parties, and maybe even we'll get back into public classes in June. I keep saying May, but I'm thinking Memorial Weekend. So it's going to be like June. So fingers crossed. So I need y'all to do what you need to do. Keep your distance, wear your masks, stay home if you're sick, get your vaccine if you're able. Okay, because that's what's going to help us all get back. Okay, I'm going to step off my public health high horse there. It was just a small horse, not really a high horse, just a little horse. Okay, so with that, 385 days. Thank you all so much to everyone that has donated to the studio over this last year. It's been a weird year, man, right? Nothing we ever thought we would ever see. But because all of you have donated, you have sent enough money that it has enabled me to be able to pay my rent. So I still have my studio. I've been able through donations to pay my rent, my utilities, keep my space there. So when this is over, hopefully here in a couple months, when this is over, we have a space to go back to. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for that. Because I'm not going to think too much about it because I'll start to cry, but I was reflecting the other day about how many small businesses have shuttered through this pandemic. And I haven't because of you. So thank you. And now we're going to move on. Okay. So let's talk about supply. I just put on mascara. Oh, sorry. Okay. So let's talk about supplies before we get started tonight. If you were to come into the studio, I would have everything all set up for you. But because we're all painting in our homes, you can see I'm in my home right now. Because we're all at home, you're setting up yourself. So let's run through supplies to make sure you have what you need to be successful tonight, just like if you were at the studio, okay? So first things first, the paint that I'm using, and I'm assuming that you're using, is acrylic paint. It's water-based, water-soluble, but if you get it on your clothes and it dries, it's really hard to get out, okay? So with that in our brains, let's take a look around. Let's make sure there's nothing around us that we're super concerned about getting paint on. No cloth that we're worried about. If you're standing on a rug that you would be worried about getting paint on, might want to roll that rug up or put something down to stand on, something plastic to stand on, okay? With that also, make sure you have an apron or a paint shirt, okay? Something that you're not concerned about getting paint on. Because yes, you can clean it up later with Murphy's oil soap or rubbing alcohol, but let's not even have to go there, okay? Just pop an old shirt or an apron on. Okay, so second, because we just talked about apron and paint shirt. Okay, next would be our canvas, our surface that we're gonna paint upon. I'm using a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. It's already primed. That just means it already has a coating of gesso on it. If it weren't primed, it would be kind of a beigey color and the paint would soak into it instead of kind of laying on it. So that's what I mean when I say a cotton canvas primed. Most canvases that you buy from the store, they're already primed, okay? Thank you, Lynn. I just saw your Venmo. Thank you. It's primed, it's stretched, it's wrapped around and stapled on the back. So decide now, however you decide to paint this. We'll talk about that in a minute. Are you going to go vertical? Are you going to leave it horizontal? We'll talk about that in a second when we lay our painting out. Decide now if you're going to paint your edges, okay? You don't have to, or you can. I think it looks nice if you do, because then your painting is wrapped all the way around, but you don't have to paint the edges. But what you don't want to do is go halfway, okay? You don't want to start painting the edges and then stop, because that just looks sloppy. So one or the other, doesn't matter, up to you. If you have decided to paint your edges, I will say, paint them as you go. It's easier to paint them as you go than it is to try to match them up later, to try to match that color. Okay, so paint your apron, canvas. We'll talk about orientation in a moment for our canvas. Water cup. I love to use an old mason jar. You can tell this one's well used, well loved. I have an old mason jar. I like a mason jar or a coffee cup because it's heavy. I'm less likely to knock it over. A little clumsy sometimes. And a solo cup works just fine. But if you're going to paint very much at all, just toss one of these gently. Toss one of these in your paint bag, something you can reuse and something with a little bit of weight. This is halfway full with cool or cold water, never warm or hot, always cool or cold. Okay. I have some paper towels down here to blot my brushes on. I don't know, probably 3 paper towels to soak everything up. And then brushes. I have a whole slew of brushes here, but they're essentially, like 3 of them are the same thing. I'm going to talk about these in a minute. They're just in different stages of life. So I have a medium brush, right? This one he's skinny this way, but he's about 1/4 inch wide this way. And he's a filbert, which just means he's curved. Yours might be filbert, yours might be flat, yours might be angled, up to you, right? Just some kind of medium brush for those smaller, tighter spaces. I'm also using a pointy brush. I have a round number 5. Yours might be bigger, might be smaller. What's important though, is to have it come to a nice pointy tip there when you pull it out of the water. Okay, this can be a fat brush as long as it comes to a nice point. When you have those small brushes and they don't hold it together anymore, time to move on and find another small brush. Okay, and then my third brush is this guy. It's my big fat oval wash brush. It's your biggest brush, whatever your biggest brush is that you have. Like the other brushes, he might be flat, he might be angled, right? He might even be a big fat round brush, up to you. I love this guy, he's a filbert. And he's probably close to 1 inch wide, somewhere between 3/4 and 1 inch wide. I'm gonna be able to cover a lot of ground with him. Now, I have 3 brushes. These brushes are essentially the same thing, just in different stages of their life. And I'm going to use them all for different things. I have my brand new brush here. I think I don't even know that he's been used, maybe once or twice. I have this guy that's about halfway through his life cycle, right? He's starting to get kind of puffy because he's getting paint down in there, making him puff out a little. And then there's this dude that he's getting way puffed out. I'm going to use all 3 of these at some point. If you only have one, that's fine. But I want to show you tonight why I never throw brushes away, because this guy has a lot of value. You may think he's looking old and worn. He has value. I'll show you. Okay. So big brush, medium brush, small brush. I'm going to take those brushes, and when I'm not using them, they're going to live in the water cup. Okay, dump them in there, leave them there. Let's talk about paint. Let's talk about our paint colors tonight. Okay, so tonight, I accidentally poured too much white, so I have a big old glob of white. So you should have a decent, maybe not this much, but a decent amount of blockout white. Titanium is fine if that's what you have, but just some kind of white. I have a lovely bright yellow. Any yellow will do. I have bright red. Any red will do. Phthalo blue. Again, any blue will do. Okay. Phthalo green. I like phthalo green because I can mix it with yellow and white and get a real cool limey color. And I like phthalo green and phthalo blue because I can get turquoise for that pot, for my flower pot that my bunny butt's in. And then just a little bit of black so we can get gray for that bunny bum. Okay, so those are my colors I have tonight. Colors are entirely up to you, whatever you want to do with them. Okay, if you want to add in extra colors, like I found in my paint bag, this lovely bright turquoise. I might use that. I don't know. I feel like I want some of that in the grass. We'll see. We'll see what happens. There's no rules. Okay. One more thing that you might want to grab in your supplies before we get started tonight. Two more things, actually. You might want a couple extra paper towels. It's going to be a challenge with a brush, especially a new brush that's all collapsed down. It's going to be a challenge to get a fluffy bunny tail. That's something you might use paper towels for. And we'll talk about that when the time comes. But have a couple paper towels on the ready, because you can crunch those up and use them like a sponger for that bunny tail. And then something else that you're going to need right off the bat is a nice round plate, something round, to help us get a big round bunny butt. I'm going to use a plate. I think one of my plates that I use for a paint palette is the perfect bunny butt size. So go ahead and find that. And I'm going to talk for just another minute about our inspiration painting. Come on, buddy. Okay. Whoop. So here we go. Here's our inspiration painting. It's kind of square. So you get to decide now, are you going to keep your canvas horizontal or are you going to go vertical? And I think the deciding factor for me was, do I want flowers to flare out to the side, which means I'm going to paint on a horizontal canvas? Or do I want to flip my canvas vertically and have some taller, skinnier flowers? I think that's the deciding factor. And as with every time we paint, think about where you're going to put your painting when you're done. If you have a spot that will accommodate a landscape style painting, that's what you do. If you have one that will accommodate vertical, that's what you do. You're going to make this painting your own. Okay, so I say, let's go ahead and get started. One more thing. If you have any questions, any comments of any type, because I have you all muted, don't hesitate to type something in the chat box. If you see me looking off to the side, it's because I'm monitoring you on my laptop beyond my camera, and I'm watching the chat box over there. Okay. All right, let's get started. So first things first, where's your bunny butt go? Where's that bunny butt gonna live? I'm gonna take this plate and I'm gonna put it really close to the middle of my canvas, I think, for horizontal. If I were painting vertically, I would be tempted to, I think, leave it a little bit lower, but horizontally, I think close to the middle works well. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with my medium brush. Find your medium brush. Now, anytime it's the first time using your brushes for the night, you're always going to tap, tap, tap gently in the bottom of the water cup. Tap, tap, tap. Because if you have new brushes from the studio, they have or from anywhere, they have a starch in them that holds them stiff. You want to clean that starch out of there. If you have old brushes, they might have a little dried paint residue in them. So we're going to try and soften them up a little. So medium brush, clean it out, pat it dry on your paper towel. And I'm going to take the tiniest bit of blue, tiny, 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 tiny bit of blue. And anytime I take paint, I'm always in the edge, never the middle. I don't want to mess everything up. I'm going to pull it from the edge, tiny, tiny bit. And I'm going to take a scoop of white right here in the edge. And I'm going to mix a nice light blue color. I'm going to go a little darker so you can see what I'm doing. But you want to keep it like a nice sky blue. maybe one shade darker than sky blue. Okay. And I'm not mixing a lot, just a little bit, because I'm going to use this to trace my plate. Now you can use a pencil if you want, entirely up to you, but I don't have a pencil on me, so I'm going to use my plate and my brush. So I'm going to step in front real quick. I apologize. Step in front because that's the only way I can get it straight. And this is going to determine my whole painting, right? So, whoop, there's my bunny butt. There's my bunny tail that just kind of pooks out a little bit. And then I've got room up here for a flower or two if I want. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to trace around it. Here we go. And then I'm just going to set this off to the side to dry because I'll use it. I'll use this again later for a paint plate. Okay. Oops. There we go. Now, once that's done, I'm going to take this brush, pop it in my water cup. Done with that guy for now. Finish with him. Because now we're going to work on the sky. If you look at the original painting, our inspiration picture, and you squint your eyes, you can see right around the bunny and right around where the pot is going to go. You can see that that's just a little bit darker. The blue is a little darker, and then it gets lighter out toward the edges. It's very subtle, but it makes it a little more interesting, right? Super subtle. So let's take that big brush, find your biggest brush, whichever one makes you happy. And I'm going to use my brush that's about halfway through with its life. Because squish it in your water cup, pat it dry, because it's starting to splay out here at the bottom, and that means it's going to hold more paint for me. New brushes are lovely, but you have to get a lot of paint and move it around the canvas. I like brushes that are a little older because he's going to hold more paint in there. So let's go with this little bit of blue that I mixed. I might even go a little darker, I think. Let's start to work our way around that outside. Now my goal is darker the bunny body, and then it's going to get lighter as we go out. Okay. See, I'm just working those together there. Finding a blue that makes me happy. And you want to get pretty close to that bunny butt circle, but don't fret. Don't fret too much about it. If you come in too far, don't worry. We'll bring the bunny body back out, okay? And don't worry too much about this space right here at the bottom, because that's going to be the pot. My guidance to you, don't be stingy with your paint. Don't be afraid to get paint on that canvas. I always find it's easier to get it on there and move it around. So I will quite literally scoop paint when I'm trying to do big strokes like this. Get it on there, okay? Get a chunk of it on there and then work on moving it around where you want it. Getting lighter at my corners. And edges, right? We talked about edges. If you have decided to paint your edges, when you get up here, it's time. Get all the way up on the top, all the way around on the side. Easier to paint them now than it is to try to match them up later. Word of advice here, acrylic paint blends while it's wet. Once it's dry, it will not blend. Okay. So I'm working this side, getting it just the way I want it. And then I'm going to head on over to that other side. And you'll see every now and then I'm dipping my brush in my water cup. You don't have to do that. I'm using a different white paint, and for whatever reason, it's super thick. So I'm using a little bit of water to thin it out a little bit. But you don't have to do that. Going all the way to the bottom, but I don't really care about what happens here in the middle, because that's going to be covered with the pot. No. Lovely. Oh, and deep breaths. Breathe it out. So if you haven't joined us before, you're going to find out. I tell stories while we're painting, right? You can mute me at any time. How about we'll do this until, I don't know, how about another 10 minutes, 7:35. And if you're not ready to move on, then I'll survey the room and you can flail wildly if you need another 5 minutes. But let's go till 7:35, so 10 minutes. So if you don't want to hear my random stories, you just mute me, because I know I can be annoying. So says my husband. God love his soul. Anyway, so for those of you that have been following the studio since the pandemic began, I think you probably know that when it started, and if you don't, let me share with you. When the pandemic first started, the studio was broken into. Weirdest experience ever, right? But crime is always weird, right? So I get a call on a Monday morning at like 5 o'clock in the morning from the police department, letting me know that the studio had been broken into. And of course, they don't tell you anything. And I don't fault them, but it made the whole situation frustrating and scary. Your business has been broken into. Please come to your business as soon as possible. Okay. So loaded up, headed to the studio, not knowing what I would find. When I got there, when my husband and I got there, we found that the person that broke in, they got him, by the way. He's in treatment right now. But the person that had broken in, a young man with a lot of mental health issues, which tugs at my heart. He broke a pane of glass in the front window, just enough to be able to get the door open, and then went in and slept. He needed someplace to sleep. God love him. So when the police got there, he took off running because, he had broken the law. Took off running. He's under 21, over 18, but under 21. Took off running and took my tablet and my credit card swiper and alcohol that was at the studio. Took a couple things, broke into another, like 2 more businesses, and then he got caught in one of those businesses. So this young man, his poor decision led to felony arrest record, because he broke into 3 businesses, the damage that he did just trying to break in to flee police, the alcohol that he took, under 21, a whole list, right? And he took the most expensive thing that I owned at the studio, which was my new tablet anyway. Fast forward a year later, he's in treatment. I was able to speak on his behalf and get him into mental health treatment because he has a lot of untreated mental health issues, and jail isn't going to do him any good. He needs to be in treatment. A year later, I had the police show up at work at my day job at the health department this past Friday and bring me my evidence back. It had been a year. So after a year, I am super duper happy. I have my tablet back. Unbroken, undamaged. The kid just took it and ran with it. So young man, not a kid, young man. He just took it and ran with it. So super happy to have my tablet back. So I know when the pandemic first started, I brought all of that up because I was angry and upset because not only are small businesses really, really hurting when the pandemic started, but then to be broken into, seriously. But it all worked out in the end. That young man's in treatment. I got my stuff back. Nobody was hurt. So I thought I had to come full circle on that story. Because I know when this whole thing first started, I brought that up. So anyway, it's one of my stories for the night. Oh, this white paint is so thick. Oh, even after we get back to in-person classes at the studio, just want to let you know I am having internet installed at the studio, and we will continue to do Zoom. I have my friend hooking up like a camera boom for me, so we'll continue to Zoom during public classes. We're getting those details all worked out. So I wanted to make sure and share that with all of you. So about another 5 minutes, and then I'll check in and see if we're ready to move on, or if we need a little more time. If you have decided to paint your edges, don't forget them. My easel is all over the place tonight. Okay. Feeling pretty good about that. It's funny, I know I said lighter out at the edges, but there's something about being a little darker at the bottom. I know a lot of that's going to be covered with grass, but anytime I feel like I need to weight a painting or set it down a little bit, I'll make it a little darker at the bottom. So you can see I did this over on this side subconsciously, I suppose, but I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. I'm going to go just a little darker at the bottom, because that just helps weight the painting down. That helps set it down a little bit. Okay, so about another 3 minutes and I'll check in, see how we're feeling. When you're done, make sure your brush winds up in the water cup. Okay. Oh, for those of you that have been with us before, when my friend Tracy from Guatemala has joined us, just want to let you know, Tracy was home this week. She was able to get her, because she's an Ohio resident, she's a Union County resident. While she was home, because she's on like a volunteer teaching visa in Guatemala, while she was home in Union County for Easter visiting family, she was able to get vaccinated. She was able to get the one shot, the Johnson and Johnson. So super excited about that because there's no vaccine in Guatemala. So super happy that we were able to get her vaccinated while she was home. So I know a lot of you have seen her on here before. So I just wanted to let you know that. I feel like through the pandemic, some of us have become a family, right? Did you see Andrea came on to let us know how Flash was doing, her puppy? So anyway. So another minute. Don't forget your edges. It was funny. I almost said, I'm kind of a chatterbox tonight. It's no different than any other night, right? Right, Marie? It's no different than any other night. I'm always kind of a chatterbox. Okay, so it is 7:35. If you need another 5 minutes to get that background, flail wildly. Majority rules. Okay, I see a hand. I see a couple flailing hands. That's fair. That's fair. Another 5 minutes. So 7:40, a 20 till, we'll move on. Something that I can do in that 5 minutes. Let's talk about our roadmap for tonight. I didn't really do that before we started. I always like to let you know the direction we're going to go. So we have traced on there where our Easter keister belongs, right? And then we've got our sky in there. I think next we'll probably work on that pot. We'll work on putting the pot in there. And then probably up here to some flowers. Then maybe some grasses. We'll see. I'm still kind of thinking about that. I think pot next. Then stems. And grasses. Flowers. There's little pink flowers down here. And then we'll finish up. We'll paint our bunny. And then we'll work on the feet and the little rump. We'll see. It's going to feel like when we do a painting like this, it's going to feel like we're jumping around a lot. We're jumping all over the place. We do that strategically so things have time to dry. So we're not sitting and waiting for things to dry all night. Because if I head right into those flowers up here right now, my sky is still going to be wet. And that's fine if it's a little wet, but it's really going to, the white in the sky is really going to tone down those flower stems and change the color of my flowers. So we're going to hop down here to the bottom and put the pot in. While that's drying, we're going to head back up. While that's drying, we're going to head back down. So while it may seem a little ADD, a little ADHD there's a purpose for the way we do that, okay? 3 minutes. Start thinking about what color your pot is going to be. Mine's going to be that pretty turquoise color. I like that color. But your pot can be whatever color you want it to be, okay? So ponder pot color. In 2 minutes, we're going to move on. Okay, so we have another minute. It's funny. I saw one of my friends in the store. Hi, Battery. I saw her in the store today, and she told me she was going to join tonight and paint. And my first question was, "Do you have your glitter ready?" So when we're on a drying break, think about if you need glitter. That's not even a question, is it? We always need glitter, but think about where the glitter would go. I think white glitter on that bunny tail would be spectacular. I also think a little bit of white iridescent glitter, not on the whole bunny foot. Oh my God, Emily has hers ready. Well done, Emily. Let us know in the chat where you're putting the glitter. On the bunny foot, there are like 3 little pink pads, like where the toes are. I think it would be adorable to glitter those. Things to ponder. I love it that Emily didn't even hesitate. She's like, I got my glitter, don't you worry. Oh, fluffy tail glitter, right? That's what I'm thinking. But I think a tiny, tiny little bit of white on those little pink toes, those little pink pads, that would be adorable. And I'm trying to decide if my pink pads are just going to be little ovals like in the original, or if I'm going to make them into like little tiny hearts. I don't know. Is that too cute? Is there such a thing as too cute when you're painting a bunny butt? I don't think so. Okay. I almost said it. It's pot time. Not that kind of class. Hold it together. All right. Let's think about where our flower pot goes. So we have about half of the bunny bum above the pot. The other half is well below the pot. To make our pot look round, to make our flower pot look round, we're gonna do the top of it first, that top line, and we're gonna paint that in a very gentle, like a smile, just a very gentle, like a Mona Lisa smile, not like a full-on crazy Joker smile, right? Like a really gentle smile, about halfway up our bunny bum circle. And you can use your medium brush if you want. I think I'm just going to use my big brush. I think so. So find whatever brush makes you happy. I think I'm going to use my big brush. I'm going to tap, tap, tap it in here to get the paint out of it. Because my flower pot is that real light teal, I don't care if there's a little paint left over in my brush, because to get that teal, I'm mixing a little bit of blue, white, and a little bit of green. So if I have blue and white already in my brush, that's okay. Now, if you're doing a different color pot, if you're doing a light color pot and you're using the Blick acrylics like we always use, like I use, or like we use at the studio, make sure you're using white. For example, if you want a nice bright yellow flower pot, make sure you're adding white to the yellow. The yellow by itself is too transparent. All the colors are too transparent. Okay. So tap, 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 clean it out, dry it off. Let's sketch out where that pot is going to live. So let's see. I want some white. little blue, little green. Oh, that's pretty. Pretty color. And what did we say? About halfway up, maybe a little lower, maybe like a finger width lower than half. Let's do a really gentle smile. See, I'm using my brush skinny ways to sketch. Skinny ways. I'm going to step in front again because I have a really hard time painting at the side all the time. All my stuff goes downhill. Go. Okay. Gentle smile. Ooh, that's good color. That's really good color. From there, I'm going to go straight down. I feel like maybe 3-finger width. So about the width of my 3 fingers. So here, this side, I'm going to go straight down. For here, don't follow the curve of your bunny. Go straight down. About 3 fingers. And over here, I'm going to go straight down. About 3 fingers. And then I'm going to match that line. So I'm going to have these 2 lines that are perfectly parallel. Not going to fill it in yet. We'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to get it all sketched on there. Okay. I feel like I just put a face mask on the moon. So weird. I never would have said that like a year and a half ago, pre-pandemic. Why would the moon have a mask? But I said it now and I'm like, oh, gotta keep the moon safe. Weird. Okay, so now let's paint the bottom and we're gonna bring this in like a fat V, right? I'm gonna swoop it in a little and I'm gonna come in from this side about the width of my index finger. So I'm not gonna start way out here at the edge. I'm gonna come in about the width of my index finger, maybe thumb, okay? Because I wanna have this nice, lovely fat lip around my flower pot. Same thing over here. And again, I apologize. I have to step in front to make sure I get my lines straight. And I'm going to come in like a fat V all the way to the bottom. That one. And there we go. Now, once I have my pot on there, we'll fill it in. And to fill it in, I'll shade it and highlight it later. Well, after I fill it in, I'll shade it and highlight it, but let's get it filled in. I'm going to use green, blue, white. I'm going to fill that guy in. I'm going to follow this top line. Even when I get down here in the bottom of my pot, I'm going to follow that same line. So all my brush strokes are side to side, really gentle smile brush strokes, side to side. Oops. This is what will help your pot look round. I love painting at home, but there's always extra stuff that comes with it. I have to step away for just a moment and provide some bulldog assistance. I'll be right back. Hi, hopping in bed? Hopping in the bed? Here you go. Zoop. Good job. Good job. Okay. All right. Fill the rest of that pot in. Again, I'm using the same color, just finding a color that makes me happy. I will shade it and highlight it as soon as I'm done filling it in. But I just want to get it filled in with color right now. Side to side, gentle smile. So you guys will have to let me know in the chat box, or you can private message the studio. You can private message me there, that once we're back into the studio and we're painting in person again with public classes, one, will you continue to paint virtually? I've heard people say yes, because I would, because deep down inside, you may not believe it, but I'm an introvert. And if I could paint from the comfort of my own home and my own studio, that would be spectacular. So one, will you continue to join? And two, what works better for you? Friday night or Saturday night? Ponder that, discuss, let me know. Oh, that's fun. You can see my pot's not smooth either. I've got streaks in it. I am okay with that. The most important part is to make sure you're doing that very gentle smile brush stroke, right? That's helping your pot look round. I just looked over and Buttery, you are looking super focused. Like I can only see your canvas, but every now and then I look up and your face is like intense on that canvas. I'm gonna need you to take a breath, Buttery. It's okay, sister. Oh, now it looks like I'm painting a snow cone. Oh, and that makes me want summertime. It's funny, I'm always like analyzing and thinking next steps and what we're doing. And I'm like, man, that pot, my pot feels too tall. It's an illusion right now. The bottom, about fat hand width, is going to be covered in grasses. So my pot may look really tall right now. It looks impossibly tall. Like, how did the bunny not knock that over? But I'm going to lose about a 4-finger width at the bottom, camouflage down in my grass. We got this. Okay. So I haven't cleaned this brush out yet. If you did, that's okay. Get some paint back on it, just a little bit of that color. And I want to go ahead and do this next step. I want to do shading while my flower pot is wet. If I wait for it to dry, I end up laying paint on top of dried paint. It's not what I want. I want to blend because I want to shade and highlight. So I don't want to lay white on top. I want to blend white into the top. So let's think about where the white is going to hit, where the light is going to hit, I should say. It's going to hit this top rim right here. So with that mess on my brush, I'm going to take a little bit of white on the end of my brush, and I'm going to go skinny ways right across that top lip. It might look aggressive when I first do it. Oh no, it's blending. It's blending nicely. My goal is to lighten it up, to not necessarily lay white on it, but blend white into it to lighten it a little. So again, a little bit of white right there along that top lip. Blending is one of those skills. It takes time to learn. You can spend a lifetime trying to master it. It's about finding that that happy spot with acrylic paint, because acrylic paint dries pretty quickly. So you have to find that lovely in-between space where it has started to dry, but it's not dry yet. It's a whole thing. Nice. I feel like I might want a little bit of light right here on this edge. There we go. Okay. And wherever we have light, we have dark. So with that mess on my brush, you know what? I've got a lot of white on there. Just going to wipe that white off on my paper towel. So now I have just that turquoise color. And I'm going to use straight blue, straight green. It's going to look dark, but it's going to blend. I want to get right up under this lip, because that would be creating a shadow. Right? This little overhang here would create a shadow. So let me get right up under there. And I'm going to go back and forth to blend it a little bit. Shading's fun. Shading and highlighting's fun because you can be like, too much, not enough. And you can just keep playing. And I really feel like the more you mess with this kind of thing, the better it is. Wasn't happy with that, so I'm just going to blend that back in and go again. Okay. So blue, green. Let's go again here. Go. So I laid my line down there and then blended down into the wet paint until that dark just faded out. And then this is optional, right? But I feel like if I put light on this corner, which isn't really there in the original, but I put light on the top left, I need to do dark on the bottom right. So again, it's not there in the original. This is totally optional. But if you want to practice on your blending, this is a good time to do it because most of this is going to be covered in grass. And I have reached the point where I need to stop touching my canvas because my paint is already getting a little too dry and I'm starting to pick up with my brush half dried paint. So it's starting to get a little curdled where it's half dry on the canvas. I know that's when I have to stop touching it. Whether I'm done or not, I have to be done because I'll just continue to make a mess if I continue to mess with it. That's a painful lesson learned because you want to keep going and going and fix it. Can't fix it now till it's dry. Okay. So I'm going to take this brush, pop it in my water cup, give you another couple minutes on that. And then we're going to head up to our greenery up here around our bunny. Excuse me. How about 8:05? We'll move on. That's going to give my sky a little more time to dry. 8:05, we'll move on. We'll work on our greenery for our flowers. And then we'll be able to head down and put some grass in down here at the bottom. Okay, 8:05. Buttery, I'm thinking about our conversation in the grocery store earlier today, and I think one of those tulip leaves needs a ladybug on it. That is a good looking snow cone. So weird. Oh, something I have not mentioned. I know a lot of you like to know when is a good time to get clean water. Not worried about that yet. I think maybe after the grass. Because I'm okay if my water is a little blue-green for that grass. I'm okay with that. But when I get to paint the bunny butt and especially the feet and tail, I'll want cleaner water for that because I don't want a tint of blue or turquoise in my bunny rump or my white bunny feet. I'm pondering how I'm going to make my bunny rump look fluffy. Does my bunny have long fur? Oh, Buttery, what color glitter, honey? And I love that it was in all caps, like, got our glitter. I love that you should always like yell glitter, right? Should always be super excited about glitter. So I'm trying to decide what my bunny fur looks like on his bum. Am I going to use my brush that's splayed out and do like tap, tap, taps to make it look really poofy, fluffy? Am I going to give little swishes to kind of make it look like fur? Don't know. Oh, colors and white sparkle. Well done. Well done, Buttery. Okay, so another minute. My brushes are in my water cup. Okay, we don't want those drying out. I've had someone say to me before, I feel bad for you guys that have been with me since the beginning, because I know I repeat myself a lot, but I know we have new people here every week. I had somebody say to me once upon a time, isn't it bad to keep your brushes like this? It's bad if you do it for a long period of time. During class, it's fine. You don't want to leave them like this all day. You don't want to leave them like this overnight and clean them in the morning because it'll warp your brushes. But while class is going on, it's nice to have them in water so you don't wind up with dried out paint. The minute class is over, though, I'll take them and wash them under warm, soapy water and leave them lay flat on a paper towel to dry. I don't store my brushes upright either. I don't think that's something I've talked about before. I don't store them upright. I know it's pretty to see them in a cup. You can store them upright if they're completely dry, but never store them upright if they're the least little bit wet, because whatever little bit of paint residue is still in there, and no matter how good you are at cleaning your brushes, there's going to be a little bit in there. It'll settle down. It'll settle down under the bristles, and that's how your brushes start to like splay out over time, is when that paint gets caked up down in the bezel. Okay. So 8:05, let's move on. Let's talk about greenery for our flowers. For our tulips, what do we have? 5 tulips? You can do as many as you want, whatever colors you want. We're not going to worry about the colors of the tulips yet. We're just going to put the greenery on there. So I think the first thing I'm probably going to do is put my stems in there, because that will help me know where my flowers are going to be. That'll help me with my placement of my flowers. So I'll put my stems in so I know where my flowers are going to land. And then I can put some greenery in around them. Okay. So to get that lovely shade of green, I'm going to mix phthalo green, a little bit of phthalo green, some yellow and some white. I'm going to use my medium brush. And I'm going to use it skinny ways. Okay. Let me show you what I mean. Let me find my medium brush. Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Dry them off. Yep. I'm going to paint with them skinny ways, vertically. So think about where I want my flowers to live. I think there's one that's going to live right here coming out of this corner. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of green, phthalo green. If you have green oxide, you can use that. Green oxide is a much more olivey green. You can use that. You can use yellow. Really make your leaves whatever you want them to be. But I like the combination of phthalo green and then yellow and a little bit of white. Phthalo green, yellow, and white. Look at that color. That's lovely. I'm going to use that brush skinny ways and sketch in just my stems right now. So let's see. I'm going to have one that lives there. Let's see, one that lives. I'm thinking about where I want those flowers. I want one all the way up here. So I have to give him a stem all the way up there. I love it when we talk about leaves on trees or blossoms on trees. I'm like, well, I want the blossoms to reach all the way out there. Well, I have to give them branches for the blossoms to live upon, right? Same thing with flowers. If I want a flower to live all the way over here, I have to give it something to live upon. I have to give it a stem. Okay. So don't be afraid to reach those stems out. I'm trying to say how many I'm going to do. I think 5 is a good number. I like odd numbers. Green, yellow, white. Trying not to put one in the middle because I know my bunny bomb is going to be, my tail is going to be right there. One right there. Oh, I like that I got a little more yellow on that one. Right there. Okay, so now I did a little bit of highlighting kind of unintentionally. It's one of those things I do and I don't think about it. I want to share it with you. A little bit of unintentional highlighting with the way I loaded my brush. Let me get my canvas close so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at this guy. Look at this one too. It's the way I loaded my brush as opposed to just flat color. These have lovely highlights on the sides of them. I'm going to put some leaves in there, and let me show you how I load my brush so you can play with that technique. Medium brush, green. I'm just loading it up with green, loading it up with yellow. So green and yellow, a bunch of green and yellow on there. And then once I have my green and yellow on there, I'm not going to blend the white on. I'm just going to swipe a little white. So I have that white that's just kind of hanging out there on the end of my brush. It's not really blended in. By doing that, I want to make sure now, because I'm going to paint, I'm going to put a leaf right here. I want the lightest part of that leaf to be on the top, like the sun is shining down on it. So I'm still going to paint skinny ways, but I'm going to make sure that white is on the top of my brush, not the bottom. I'm going to make sure it's on the top. And I'm going to come out here. I'm going to do one brush stroke. Zoop. Look at that. Dark green on the bottom, lighter on the top. Isn't that lovely? Let me do a couple more of those. And I'm going to try to do them a little closer. Green. Yellow. And a swoop of white. Swoop. I'm going to leaf right here. Make sure the white is on the top. Oops, let me step this way. I'm going to start out here at the edge. Very light pressure. Light, light, light. As I come in, I'm going to push. Oh, push, push, push. Make it fatter. Fatter as I get down there. Isn't that fun? This is something, if you really enjoy this and you want to really learn how to paint leaves like this, go back and watch the video later and just pause it and just practice that. It really is a feeling, right? You have to have the right amount of paint, load it up with green and yellow. I'll swipe a white, white stays on top. And then we work on doing it in one brush stroke. Green, yellow, swipe a white. Oh, I want a big leaf out here. Fun. And I love that each time I take green and yellow, it's a little different. This one might have a little more yellow. A couple of them have a little more green. Makes things interesting, right? Ooh, thinking about, are you going to put a butterfly or a some kind of an insect, a ladybug? Are you going to put anything on your leaves? If you're going to, you want to give them a nice horizontal surface. That'll make your life easier. So this lovely horizontal leaf right here is a perfect spot for a little bug. So now remember, if you feel I'm moving too fast, don't rush yourself. Go at your own pace. Know that you can come back and watch the video later. As soon as class is over, I'll have it posted. Okay, so don't fret. Move at your own pace. It always makes me smile when someone asks me to slow down in class, because I paint really fast. If I were by myself, I would have this painting done in about 20 minutes. So the pandemic has been really good for me to have me slow down and breathe and really enjoy the process. Not that I don't enjoy the process when I paint fast, it's just a different kind of painting. But it just makes me smile when somebody tells me in a 2-hour class I'm moving too fast. Like, I forget, everyone paints at their own pace. Everybody's at their own speed. And that's what makes the world a beautiful place. So I think I'm going to stop there with my leaves. I feel like I have enough. I can always add some more later, right? But I think I'm going to stop there. I feel like I'm in a good place. I feel like I have my tulips where I want them. I'm kind of visualizing where they're going to be. I think I'm going to get ready and head into grass. Now, depending on the size of canvas you're using, if you're using, I know a lot of you use a smaller canvas. If you're using a smaller canvas, by all means, stick with this brush, stick with this medium brush. But I have, no pun intended, I have a lot of ground to cover. So I'm going to use my big brush, but I'm going to use it the same way we use this guy for those leaves. I'm going to load it up with green and yellow, take a little swipe of white, and I'm going to work on grass all the way across the bottom. So let's talk about what that grass looks like. Might be a little taller on the edges. I don't want it to go because of the bunny feet. Let's keep it, if I find the lip of my pot right here, that bottom edge lip that I shaded, let's stay about 2 fingers away from that. Let's not take the grass up any higher than that. That should give me ample room for bunny feet without running into the grass. So again, bottom lip of the pot, find that about a 2-finger width. Don't bring your grass up any higher. Okay. You can go a little higher on the sides if you want, but no higher than that. So now I'm going to use my big brush the way I used that medium brush. Clean that guy out. Tap, tap, tap. Dry him off. Green, yellow, little swipe of white. Vertical from the bottom, pull up and away. So green, yellow. Look at me loading that brush up. Green, yellow, little swipe of white. Bottom, up and away. Oh, that's fun. Now, be okay with those different shades in there. That's what makes this lovely, right? It's a little more white there. It's a little darker there. That's okay. You don't want it to all be the same shade of green. That would be boring, right? If it were all the same shade. It's okay to have those different shades of green in there. Green, yellow, white. Bottom, pull up and away. What do you think? Is it all straight? Does it go different directions a little? I think it's springtime before the grass has been cut, right? So it might be a little shaggy. And this is one of those times where you really can just go crazy. Okay. I need you to just let it go. Let it fly. Let whatever happens, just let it happen. You can't get hung up on making all those blades of grass perfect. Let it go. Oh, I got close there. Really close to my 2-finger width rule. Oh, fun. Okay, I'm not seeing bunny yet. It just looks like a really weird snow cone right now. But don't worry, it'll turn into a bunny. I hope. It will. We'll turn it into a bunny. Oh, my pot doesn't look too tall anymore either. I was kind of worried about it. It looked kind of precarious, like the bunny was going to flip it over. But adding that 4-finger width of grass at the bottom, that made all the difference. Oh, and edges. We talked about edges, right? If you have decided to paint your edges, don't forget that bottom edge. I hear people say all the time, well, it doesn't matter. You'll never see the bottom of it. You know, but what if you decide to hang it up in your stairwell, right? On the wall, and you walk under it every day? You'll be like, man, wish I'd have painted that bottom edge. I hear that too about the top edge. Well, it'll be sitting up high. You'll never see it. Will you never see it? You never know. I don't know why I just got weird there. Will you? I don't know. Okay, so reel it in. So I'm loving the grass all the way across the bottom. Something you can do to continue to play a little bit in that grass later if you have time and you have the inclination. The grass would be darker in the back, and then as it comes toward you, it would be lighter. So if you wanted to continue to play, not saying I'm going to do this, but if you wanted to, what if you took some green, some yellow, and a little more white and lightened that paint up and put some more grasses here, the bottom pulling up down in front. Because, excuse me, further down the canvas is closer to the viewer. So you could lighten it up down there right at the very bottom if you wanted to. I feel pretty good with where I'm at though, because I'm going to play much more in it. So I think we should take 5 minutes, finish up that grass, whether you're finished or not. We're going to move on in the interest of time, because I like to keep these to 2 hours and I want to be done by 9. So 5 minutes, we're going to move on. When we move on, make sure you have clean water, clean brushes, some clean white, which is getting to be a challenge right now. Clean brushes, clean water, clean white. We're going to come back, and I think we're probably going to paint our bunny rump, right? We'll paint our bunny rump. We'll let that dry. While that's drying, we'll paint our pink flowers. Put some little pink flowers down here. And then we'll be able to come back and finish with tail and feet. So we're starting to get into those lighter colors. I don't want turquoise left over in my brush, right? So let's go rinse out. Clean water, clean brushes, clean white. And we'll be back in about 4 minutes. Marie, my heart just exploded a little bit, just a little. Marie's sending me pictures of her puppy, and my heart can't take it. So Marie, you need to do what Emily did. I don't know if he's old enough for that yet. Does he truly get what a treat is, like peanut butter? Does he really get the concept of that yet? So take a small canvas, put your extra paint, your leftover paint, just blop it on the canvas, put the canvas in a Ziploc bag, put peanut butter on the Ziploc bag and put it on the floor, and let him like lick it and put paws on it. And as long as he doesn't eat the bag, he's a puppy, he might try to eat the bag, but then you'll have whiz art. Oh, whiz art, it's a thing. It just became a thing. Okay, 3 more minutes. Clean water, clean white, clean brushes. We'll be back and we'll finish out that bunny. Okay, I'm gonna get ready here in a minute or so, and I'm gonna work on those flowers, on those tulips. The tulips, we're gonna do the same kind of brush stroke. It's gonna be like a single brush stroke, and we're gonna walk away and leave it. We're gonna do like 2, maybe 3 brush strokes together and just leave them, because we want to be able to see the different shades of pink or the different shades of whatever color flower you're deciding to do. The first thing I'm going to do, though, at the end of each one of my stems, I'm going to make sure I don't have a glob of wet green paint. So I'm just going to check the end of my stems here real quick and make sure, just right there at the ends, I don't have any wet green paint, because I'm going to paint down into like a football shape that's kind of rounded at the bottom. I'm going to paint down into those stems, and I'm going to do 3 brush strokes. And when I'm down there, I don't want to accidentally pick up green when I head back to the top. Okay, so I'm thinking from the tip of the flower down to the base. Let's do that. I want to do, I really like the pink, but I'm thinking more of a peachy color. I'm going to take my big brush, my big oval wash brush, and I'm going to use it like I used it for the grass. I'm going to use it skinny waves. I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow and mix it over here in the edge of the red. See if I can get a color that makes me happy. A bit of white. Oh yeah, more of a peachy. Really, it's whatever color makes you happy. But I like that it's a little peachy, and that yellow is going to do it for me, I think. So now, just like our leaves, just like we did our leaves, want a decent amount of paint on your brush. You're going to get your color on there that makes you happy. Load that brush. If this makes you nervous and you're unsure, do a practice on your plate. Okay, there we go. Got my color, and then swoop of white. Zerp of white right on the end. And I'm going to do one right here. Start out at the end. And essentially what you're doing is 2 skinny parentheses with a line in the middle. So you're going to do side parentheses, straight line in the middle, right parentheses. So there's 1, There's 2. There's 3. And I need a different brush because this one isn't fat enough. Or I just needed to turn it a little bit. So instead of using it completely skinny, I turned it on a 45. And that's working for me. But then you kind of have to leave it alone because you want to see all those different shades of color in there. Okay, let's do another one. So load up, just like your leaves, load up your color. Swoop of white. And I'm going to do parentheses, straight, parentheses. Oh, that's pretty. Let's do another one. Let's see. I'm going to turn my painting for this guy. Parentheses. A little more straight. Parentheses. Oh, those are fun. And again, it's something that may take practice. But it's one of those things, painting, as long as you enjoy it, keep practicing and playing and experimenting. And you may decide this isn't the way you want to do tulips. And you may come up with your own way. And that's okay. But I think we've already said I'm a fast painter, right? So if I can do something in one brush stroke and move on, I'm down with that. Here we go again. Left, straight, right. Oops, gotta fix that edge. There we go. And one more. See me turning my painting all over the place, making life easier for me. Oh. See me not overthinking them, just doing them and moving on. Something you can do if you want to play a little bit, if you have time later, you can take that big brush. Just got a couple stray bristles here. Take that big brush, wipe it off, not cleaning it out, I'm just wiping it off. So it still has a little paint in it, but it's pretty paintless. I mean, there's still paint in it, but not on it necessarily. And take just a little tiny bit of white on the end of your brush right there, just a little bit. Again, you don't have to do this now, but if you wanted to play a little bit later. And what if I decide to highlight one of these petals? I set this brush right here at the end. And with really light pressure, I pull and let go. Pull and let go. Very subtle, but I love what that did. Let me do that again. Tiny bit of white. And let's see this guy. So tiny bit of white on there, right out at the end. And I feel like there's going to be a lovely highlight right here. So set it right at the edge. And pull down and let up. Down, let go. It is the lightest pressure possible. Like you would be buttering fresh toast that hasn't been toasted. You're buttering bread that hasn't been toasted, that's like just out of the oven, right? You can't press hard because you mash it all in, right? You have to just very gently, very soft so you don't mess up the bread. It's the lightest pressure. But I love what that does. Now this guy looks a little plain. He needs a little bit of that. So this might be something you could go back and watch the video later, because I'm going to go ahead and move on here in a second. So, oh, that's fun. Okay. I'm going to move on to my medium brush. And down here in a couple spots in the bottom, I'm going to use the same color and put just the idea of flowers down there. This would be someplace that would be fun to use Q-tips, because we don't really want them to look like very distinct flowers. They're just little teeny tiny pops of color. So I'm going to use my medium brush and load it up with that color, that red, yellow, the white. Ooh, I need fresh white from a bunny. Red, yellow, white down there. And I'm going to give just tiny little swipes down there. Very random, very uneven. Just little bits of color down there. Just kind of turning my brush different directions, giving just little swoops of that pinky peach color. None of these brush strokes should be more than, certainly not more than half an inch. Some of mine got a little long, but I would aim more for quarter inch. Go back with a little more white and add a couple more that are a little lighter, so they're not all the same shade of pink. Okay. And you see, I didn't spend much time on that at all. It looks like I just put little dashes down there, but when you step away from it, it all makes sense. Okay. All right. So in the interest of time, we're going to keep moving. I know I'm showing you a lot of stuff here pretty quickly, but again, you can go back to the video if you need to. I'll have that posted up pretty quickly when class is over. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to sketch out in my white section here, in the interest of time, where my tail is going to be and where the tops of my feet are going to be. Because if I paint this all gray, I have to wait for that to dry before I can go over it with white, right? But if I map out where the bottom part of that tail is and the top part of those feet, then I don't have to wait for that gray to dry to put my feet on, my feet and my tail. So just like we did with our tulips, let's take a moment and check and make sure none of these stems or leaves or the top of the pot, nothing around here is wet. because I don't want to get green in my bunny rump. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to go into, I think I'm going to use my big brush. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my big brush, the one that has seen the most love, the most action, the one that's splayed out. Because I think I'm going to be able to get really cool texture with that guy. So clean him out, dry him off. Oh yeah, that looks like a bunny keister, an Easter keister brush, right? Because he's all splayed out. And I'm gonna have to get some clean white because wow, I kind of obliterated my white tonight. So let me do that and I'll come back and we'll make this, we'll sketch out where our tail and our feet are gonna go. And we'll finish strong here. So let me get a little clean white. Okay. So with my big brush, I'm going to take the tiniest bit of black, tiny, just the tiniest bit. And over here in the edge of my white, had to get a clean plate. Over here in the edge of my white, I'm going to mix a nice bunny rump gray. A little more black. Tiny bit of black at a time, because before you know it, it'll be too dark. So tiny bit of black over there in the edge of the white, and just keep pulling white in until you get it where you want it. And I'm going to go a little darker so you can see what I'm doing. But now I'm going to sketch. I'm going to do a little half circle up here at the top. That's where my bunny tail is going to be. And then I'm going to do the top of my foots. Right there. And the top of my foots. Right there. And now everything outside of my tail, my two heels, my two bunny feet heels, all going to be bunny rumpus. So decide how you're going to do that. Are you going to use your big old brush that's splayed out? Do you have a stomper brush? Are you going to use a paper towel? What are you going to do to make that look like a bunny rump? Ooh, I like that. Tap, tap, tap. Ooh, I like the tap, tap, tap. Oh, bunny butt. Getting down close to the top of that pot. And it's okay if it goes just a little over the edge of the pot, because it's going to look like fur, right? A little bit of fur overhanging the edge. That's okay. These are times that really make me miss the studio, because I can just imagine us all being in there together. thump, thump, thumping on the canvas. We'll get there soon. It'll happen. Okay. Funny rump. Okay. I know we're running out of time, but I'm gonna take a minute and do something that I think is important. I'm gonna do just a tiny, tiny bit of shading, just a little bit. I think I might use a smaller brush. So I'm gonna go into my medium brush. With a little bit of gray. I'm going a little bit darker. And right here, I'm going to tap, tap, tap with that little bit of darker. Tap, tap, tap. So when I put in that bunny fluff, you'll have that little bit of shadow underneath it. I'm going to do the same thing right at the tops of the feet. I'm just a smaller brush. I'm going just a little bit darker. Tap, 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 tap. A little bit of shadow. All about the details, right? It's one of those little subtle things that in the grand scheme of things makes a difference. You may not feel like it, but it does. Cute, cute. Do you see it? I see it. I see bunny butt happening. Okay. Now at this point, I'm going to give this time to dry so I can come in with clean white and not worry about getting in that gray. Now would be the time to ponder. Do you need a butterfly? Do you need a ladybug? Do you need a praying mantis? Do you need any kind of fun extra thing out there? I don't know why, but I just thought it might be cute if you had just like little tiny bunny ears there, like it's a baby bunny. That'd be super cute. But things to think about. It's really whatever you want to do. I think I might play with a butterfly here. I might put a butterfly out here watching the bunny messing in the flower pot. So whatever color you choose, remember you have to add a little bit of white. So I think I'm going to do a little blue butterfly. A little bit of this white, some blue. And I'm going to go a little darker so it doesn't blend in too much with the sky. I'm going to go right here. Oh, that big front wing. Like a balloon shape. And that back wing is just a smaller kind of balloon shape. Smaller. Zoop. Cute. And then with my little brush, I'm giving just a little black body. Little head. It's a little skinnier as we work down toward the back. Oh, he needs antenna. Little antenna. I don't know, he might get polka dots. I might play with him a little bit. He's whatever you want him to be. No right or wrong here. Just kind of playing, waiting on this gray to dry. A little outline. Just playing. Oh, he needs a white polka dots. I'm going to use the other end of my brush. I'm going to use the handle. Give him just some little white polka dots up around that wing. Gotta get that wing too. So fun. Little butterfly. Silly little butterfly. He looks a little chubby. It's a no judgment zone, right? Just made me think of A Bug's Life, right? The caterpillar that turns into the butterfly. I'm a beautiful butterfly. And he's still so chubby he can't move. Okay. Right. So I've got my butterfly. I'm not going to give him an eye because if you're doing something that small, I think it's going to look weird if you give him an eye. So he doesn't get an eye. We just assume that it's there. Okay. If you wanted to give him an eye, it would be the teeniest, tiniest little white dot if you feel like he needs an eyeball. But now I'm going to take my big brush. I think whatever technique you used for the gray, I feel like we should use the same technique for that. Strike that, back it up. Let's do the tail last. Let's do the tail last because if the feet turn a little gray, that's okay. But I want to make sure that tail is bright puffy white. So let's do the feet first, okay? And the feet might need 2 coats of paint. We'll see. So I think medium brush. There we go. And we know bunny feet are big. Big bunny feet with white. Let's see. Down here. Oh, all the way down past the lip of my pot. Fill that in. Notes. Be really careful to stay away from that gray. But again, if you get into a little bit of that gray on the foot, it's okay. It'll be okay on the tail too. But I know I want that tail to be nice and bright. So now as you paint your feet on there, you may have to wait for your feet to dry and give them a second coat. If you feel like your white paint is not covering like you feel it should, don't try to glop a bunch on there in an effort to cover it in one swipe, right? Because there comes a point you keep putting more paint on and more paint on, you start picking up half-dried paint, right? And you're defeating the purpose. You're trying to put more paint on, but you're unintentionally pulling paint off with your brush. So if you have that happen, if you feel like you need another coat of white on your bunny feet, get a coat of white on there, let them dry, and go back and paint them again. Let them dry completely in between coats of paint. Other bunny foot. Okay. I don't know that I'm going to need another coat. Mine's covering pretty well. Mine's covering pretty well because I'm using this other brand of white paint that is super thick like toothpaste. That's why mine's covering well. I hate throwing paint away. So I'm using random paint that I found in my studio at home that Lord knows how old it is. But I'm gonna use it. Okay. So there's foots. Okay, with my medium brush, with the white on there, I'm going to take a tiny, tiny bit of red. And let's put little toes, 3 little toes on each foot. Little pink toes. And I love that it's really close to the color of my tulips and my little flowers down here. I'm using my medium brush loaded up with paint. And I'm just putting a little oval on there, right? So I'm going to put one in the middle and one to the left and one to the right. And that is really too pink. So I'm going to lighten it up with some white. It's like my bunny toes are bleeding. Grab some white, lighten that up. One in the middle. That's better. Left, right. That side's much better. Let's see if we can tone this side down. There we go, better. And then last thing is to put our poofy bunny tail on. Oh, now we've talked about glitter earlier. We haven't revisited that. So if you're going to glitter sticks everywhere paint is wet. Everywhere paint is wet. It's really hard to control. The way I like to glitter, I like to make it the last thing I'm going to do. So for example, if I want to glitter my bunny toes, I'll probably take my painting to the blow dryer, make sure everything's dry, come back and just paint the toes and glitter those while those are the only thing that's wet. I like to lay my painting flat, sprinkle the glitter on, and then flip it up in the trash can and knock the excess glitter off. Okay. If you want to glitter your tail, you're going to want to wait for everything to dry. Go to the blow dryer, come back later and glitter it, right? Although I'm of the mind, if I were going to use white iridescent glitter and it stuck everywhere, like on my butterfly, on my tulips, on my little pink flowers, on my bunny feet, I'd be okay with that. But that's up to you. I'm not going to glitter tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and put my poofy bunny tail on there and call this done. And we're a little over on time, but not too bad. All right. Big brush. Clean it out. Find some clean white paint here. And start in the middle. Tap, 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 tap. Oh, cute. Oh, I love him. Her, him, her. I don't know. Hard to tell. I can't see my bunny's eyes to see if it has eyelashes to know if it's a boy or a girl. Isn't that the way it works in cartoons? If it has eyelashes, it's a girl, evidently. There we go. Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and end there. Again, I know I went pretty quickly through the end there, but as soon as I stop recording, you'll be able to go back and watch and pause it and rewind and see how I did some of those things. So for the recording, the last thing you want to do, make sure you sign your painting. I think every artwork should be signed, whether you throw it in the burn pile or you hang it up on your wall. I think it's something it should be signed. Okay. So artists usually sign bottom left or bottom right. So you could put a lovely little signature down here. You can sign on the back if you want with a paint pen or a Sharpie. If you sign on the back, never on the canvas. Sign out where the wood is. Because if you sign it on the canvas, it could bleed through to the front, and then that would just mess up your whole painting. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and then unmute so we can chat for a little bit. So I'm Shauna Sue from Crooked Door Studio. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. This has done my heart such a load of good tonight. And I will see you next week. I will get the event posted for next Saturday. I have if you like starry nights and you like bright colors, you'll want to see what I have in store for next week. And again, the recording for tonight, as soon as we're done here, as soon as I hit stop, it will be in the Facebook event. You'll be able to find the link to the recording in the Facebook event. So thank you all so much. I'm Shauna Sue from Crooked Door Studio, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.